to Consultant Spotlight. This is the show where we take a look behind the curtain so that you can learn a little bit more about our SBDC consultants. My name is Jon Hovey. Today I'm going to be talking with Jon Howard, and yeah, we have a lot to cover, Jon. It's going to be great. Jon is a experienced business consultant, HR specialist, and I'm going to read it off my sheet so that I say it right. Society for Human Resources Management Senior Certified Professional. So that's very, very important. And, you know, today during the show, we'll be talking about what's going on with your consulting practice. And yeah, we'll answer your audience questions as well. You know, we want to make sure that we have time for that and that we live up to that promise of helping you hire your dream team.
Great.
So I'm sure you have a lot to share for our audience today. Welcome. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm preparing for a big snow event, but you know, Jon, it's a good day, and any day you can have the opportunity to visit with people interested in optimizing their business, growing the business, it's a good day.
I agree. It's nice to see you, and yeah, we'll see about that snow. 5 feet in the forecasts. That's pretty much taller than me, so I'm in deep trouble, so to speak. All right. Well, you know, before we dive into your background a little bit, what's in the news? What's going on that's real current that people might need to be paying attention to?
Well, that's a good jumping off point here, Jon. We live in a very business friendly state. Colorado is known as one of the handful of states in the U.S. that's actually attracting a lot of business, and there's a reason for that. And that's because the legislature and the businessmen here and decision makers have produced an environment that's conducive for business. So we're seeing a lot of activity and a lot of movement of groups to the Denver MSA up and down the Front Range and even on the western slope. So it's an exciting time to be here. With those opportunities always come the opportunity to have new laws. And there's been no exception for that. I think at last count, Jon, over the last 3 years in Colorado, there's been over 200 laws implemented that affect small businesses. So, you know, you get the challenge of running your business, but you also get the challenge of staying abreast and compliant with all the new laws. So that's probably the newest and latest and greatest thing is being aware and up to date on the new laws here affecting employers in Colorado.
Excellent. And you know, the business owners don't have to do it alone. They can give us a call.
Well, the resources are there. I'll tell you what, there's no shortage of that.
Yeah. So let's hear your story. How did you become a consultant, and maybe tell me a little bit about this this senior certified professional as well, for people who might not know.
Yeah, I forget which one of the books I've read, but the point was begin with the end in mind. And as you've introduced me here and talked about where we are today, that's really where I am now. And it's not a destination because I'm not retiring and I'm still involved, but it's where I am today. So I'm excited to be a business consultant involved with human capital management. But Jon, it's come about directly because of my background over the last actually 40 years, but 30 years as a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started and run 2 businesses. I've been associated with Fortune 500 companies in an HR capacity. So that's what's led me to this point in my life where I really enjoy conversations and discussions about how we optimize your businesses in that human capital arena. So that's really where I am today is through the years of having businesses, work with companies, and that's where I choose to be today is enjoying speaking with business owners about human capital issues.
That's fantastic. And you know, so at North Metro SBDC, we're going to see the solopreneur who's just starting up. We're going to see the business owner who may have dozens of employees. You know, who's your ideal client? What are you excited to work with people about?
I'm looking for that attitude, and that attitude is one of continual optimization and improvement. So that can be that guy that's got 2 or 3 that are starting up now, and certainly in the world of COVID, there's been a migration for a lot of people leaving large companies and consolidating with 1 or 2 other employees. So you see a lot of startups these days. So I like working with startups. But then again, I like working also with the ones that realize where they are, recognizing in the business cycle where their business is, and wanting that continual improvement. And that can be typically people I visit with, John, have employees in the 30 to 100 range. So about 100 is about where we top out, but I've got a couple that have a couple hundred. But I'd say sweet spots for me are anywhere from 20 to 50 employees.
Very nice, very nice. And you know, if someone was on the fence about whether or not a session with you or developing a consultant client relationship with you would be helpful, what, I don't know, do you have a message for that person, or is there some homework that you would hope that they would have done before they would seek you out, or not?
Certainly. And again, I'm going to go back to the attitude. It's one of wanting to know how I can improve, wanting to know how I can take advantage, of the opportunities and resources. I had the fortune to listen in last week to an interview you did with one of our consultants at SBDC. And I remember, John, you were stressing the importance and how she was stressing the importance of mentors and those that's gone before us. And that same message I would reiterate this week. I believe it's hypercritical that business owners today reach out and seek those that have been down the road before. And there's so many things to gain by that. There's obviously the best practices and the things that's worked for them, but there's also the pitfalls and the things to look out for. So as I'm working with people, I want that attitude that doesn't say, you know what, I really don't need it, I know it all, I think I've got it figured out. In my experience, the best leaders and the best managers of people are those that are looking to continually improve. And I firmly believe in the role of mentors at every level. But certainly as you're growing your business and wanting to optimize, there's so many resources, those that have been ahead of us that could help us out.
I love that. I'm reading another book right now, and the author said, talking about attitude, you pretty much have to pick. You can either fall in love with what you know already, or you can fall in love with everything that you don't know. And you got to pick one, as it kind of closes the door on the other one. And obviously the right answer is you probably better fall in love with what you don't know, because it's a lot more than even what the smartest person knows.
I tend to agree with you on that. That emotional intelligence and that awareness is a big part of success that I've observed with those that are successful.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of success stories, do you have a client story that you can share?
Certainly. I've got several, but I've got a couple of ones that always jump out, and I'll lump them, I'll mass them together for the purpose of this illustration, John, but it's got to be those startup companies again. And so many times what I love to see is the passion of these business, of the entrepreneurs that are starting a business, and they have just, this wonderful laser-like focus on their product, on their service, and what they want to do. And that's great discussion to have. And there's so many tools that we help to develop that, whether it's a business plan or other type of assistance that help, put that into something that's memorialized and a plan for you. But what's critical is that people realize that there are so many things that are required in the world to be successful in business that you typically don't think about. And I'm talking about the HR aspect. You've heard it frequently said that people are the most important asset and the most valuable asset on a balance sheet. Well, I believe that, but I don't talk to people so often. They go, I have a love for building this project, for building this product and be able to deliver it. And I love that. And I spend my time and my effort. They don't love HR. They don't love all the things that are necessary to put gas in that machine and keep it operating. So the conversations that I like to have are those that jump around. I realize that you're excited about your plan. I realize that you've got a great product here, and you realize now to accomplish that, you're going to need these individuals. How are you going to manage them? How are you going to hire them? How are you going to attract them? How are you going to retain them? How are you going to operate in an environment that's compliant with Colorado law? Are you aware of that? Are you aware of the ramifications if you don't? So all of these issues are critically important to business owners and to startups. And those are the conversations that I enjoy having, is saying, hey, I love the idea. It looks like you're going to change the world. Let's make sure that you've got and you're equipped to provide for the human capital side of that to ensure that that happens.
Yeah. I'm gonna swear a little bit. You ready?
Let it go.
Hire slow, fire fast. What do you think about that?
You know what? Experience has told me that there's almost a qualified answer for everything, a qualified yes or qualified no. But generally speaking, that's a pretty good adage there. There's so many trends that have changed in the last 20 years with technology, and even in the last 10, when it comes to equipping and staffing your company. So a whole different conversation, a great conversation about how to make strategic hires. But it's not the first time I've heard hire slow and fire fast, and there's a lot of truth to that.
So what? I'm imagining someone who's never hired or never been a boss or a manager. It's very daunting for some people, and they need to make a plan. It needs to be in their business plan. But do you have any advice for the first time, that first hire that someone's never done?
Absolutely. And you're touching on some key points there, but the move in HR has been from one of transactional to more strategic. And the sooner that you can become strategically involved in conversations with your leadership team, the better you'll be. And the reason is that there are so many things that impact hiring personnel, but it should be involved from day one with the decision makers, with the owners, the CEOs, because everyone on the team needs to understand what the growth plan is. And then when you understand the growth plan, you need to understand of how to equip it and how to staff it. And then another step would be understanding that how you correctly assess and position that goal, or position with the company so you could hire correctly for it. There's so many resources available today around personality tests, around aptitude tests, all these testing that help you qualify and get the right person. But that's got to be done at the right time, that the entire leadership team recognizes that needs there, that it's properly funded, that you've got the right type of benefits or a package that you make available to the person. You might have the best person and be the most qualified, but if you don't know what you're going to offer them, is it competitive? What all is in that remuneration package? So many things that at first glimpse a business owner's not aware of that needs to be involved. And as you touched on, that's done from strategic planning day one. And so that when the time has come, you effectively hit a button and you start your process. And it's but you should be well aware of staffing needs on a strategic level, I would say 6 months to a year ahead of time. And you always have the one-offs that you have events and something pops up. But all in all, it should be strategic decisions that are made in hiring.
Is it ever, or have you ever encountered a client or a business where it was just too late? they didn't have that strategic outlook, and they made too many mistakes that it couldn't be turned around?
What I would say to that in my consulting, and I've heard that, is it's not too late. It's where you are today. So what are you going to do today? There's not a heck of a lot I can do about yesterday, but I have all of the ability to influence what I do in the future. So I would have a conversation that embraces the fact it's not too late. It's where you are. Do we have a clear picture of that now? Is there any other things that we need to be of where we are now? And then you can strategically plan to go ahead and you can recover, or you can make those corrections and you can go forward. So it's more of an awareness and assessment of now rather than accepting defeat and saying too late or the past.
All right. Well, I'm going to check our audience questions here and see if anybody has typed in any. I don't see any, but audience, if you have any questions, please do type them in. John, I've heard a couple times in the last 3 months a complaint, and it was almost like an echo, that the business owner cannot find good people. They're not there. How do you address that? Because it can't be true.
It possibly is, but I would walk through and help recognize again, have you made a strategic assessment of your needs? A lot of times, John, people will recognize or they'll identify a need, and then the analogy I like to give is they don't go fishing in the right places. So when you're going to look for candidates, you've got to be prepared. I want to go fishing in a stocked pond. I want to make sure that I've got the best bait on the latest tackle, and I go to a stocked pond. I can spend a lot of time out looking for the right person in the wrong place, and it will yield me nothing. But again, a little bit of strategic planning will tell me who to look for, and it'll tell me where they are, what their qualifications are, and it'll tell me now how to reach them. So those are the steps that you can take that will help ensure that your time, which is extremely valuable as a business owner, is minimized when you start your selective target and you're searching for your candidate. So many resources available to identify the right target. So my story, go fishing in stock ponds.
Should people pay a lot of money for those stock ponds?
It's not necessary. There are, again, you look at even the resources that we offer by a consultation with we've got a phenomenal consultant, a lady, Courtney Berg, and she's got an accreditation and a certification, and she's phenomenal with her experience. Last time I checked and I listened to your intro, that's a free consultation with the SBDC, right?
True.
That's valuable information that's available that a business owner should take advantage of. So the answer is sometimes specific targets and needs have cost associated with them, but generally speaking, that's because people are lazy. I mean, I can go online and start a new business and I'm required to have a PIN number, where there's companies that charge $200 for getting a PIN number and turning it around in 2 to 3 days. I can go to the IRS site and I can get a PIN number in 3 minutes. So if you're lazy and if you're not aware of the resources available, then you might spend more money, but educate yourself, be aware of what's available, and save that money for other things.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I'm looking at my question list here. What are you hoping that I ask you? What did I forget?
We touched on it a little bit, but I think some of the things that I've learned personally, John, from mentors is how critically important it is to stay aware and to stay in tune of what's going on in the world around you. And the best way to accomplish that, just besides, I'm not talking about the basic news, but expanding your knowledge. And the way that I do that is I've enjoyed a very extensive reading list. and I'd be glad to share that with anyone that would inquire about that. But there are books, and you know, there's a guy in the Bible that said there's not a lot of new things under the sun, and you know, Solomon said that. But there are new books, there are those paradigm shifts. And the way I look at it, if I read a book and I'm able to glean one or two nuggets out of that, it's worthwhile. A lot of it's repackaging, but there is original thought out there. And the more that you can expose yourself, that you can become aware of that, it keeps your mind in a fertile state that you're looking to grow and improve. So I would say, beside the mentoring, is develop great habits of reading books.
I appreciate that. Give us one book from your list.
You know what? There's a guy here in the Denver area that's gotten a lot of traction lately, and his name is Jim Keenan, and he wrote a book called Gap Selling. And one of the things that I like to do along the lines of HR and human capital consulting is I like working in building and developing sales teams. And Keenan has a book out again called Gap Selling, and the premise is basically is that we don't sell people. What we do is we go and we listen and we identify areas that they may be having trouble. We try to quantify those areas, and then you develop a solution based upon that gap between where they are now and where they want to be. So it's not really selling, it's identifying and then coming in with a solution. So I've enjoyed it. I'd highly recommend it. Good local guy. Check him out on LinkedIn. Keenan, it just goes by the last name. And his latest book is Gap Selling.
Thank you. We'll get it today. We have an audience question here. I've had a lot of demand over the last year for my product, and I need to hire more staff, but I'm not sure if the demand will fall back to normal levels after things continue to normalize. How should I approach this hiring situation?
You know, good question, and I've heard that before. I'll go back to my analogy quickly that I like to use with the fishing in the stock ponds. If you think that there's fish in a pond, but you don't go after them, you're never going to catch them. So you've got to equip yourself, and you've got to be in a position that you can take advantage of the demand while it's there. There are strategies while you're building that demand that also retain and grow that demand. So you would want to look at things that not only are involved with that transaction, but more importantly, a relationship that may relate other referrals or other type of things. But it's a good conversation, but you know, you're not going to have the opportunity if you don't pursue it. And there's things that you could always look at in the future based upon a lack of demand, and that would demand good internal observations. But I would encourage you to, especially today in the world in Denver and the business environment where we are, there's opportunities. So you may be able to shift that focus, but I wouldn't hesitate to qualify as much as you can and pursue it.
Outstanding. All right. Any others from the audience?
You know, COVID's created a very unique culture in terms of hiring now, and kind of as a follow-up to that question, there's a type of flexibilities that exist today that didn't even a year ago. So you've got a hungry workforce. I think there's a qualified workforce that's willing to work from home, that's willing to work in different scenarios. So, and I'm not sure of how quickly that will change back. I think it's pretty much a shift that's here to stay. So, you know, I would look very, very hard at how I could get some quality people. They're there.
It is a very interesting time for remote work and the future of work in general. John, I'm going to go off script for a second. You mentioned mentors at the beginning, and in the consultant spotlight you referenced with the attorney Samantha Peasley, we were talking about mastermind groups. Do you have any opinions about a mastermind group?
Yeah, I've relatively new resident back to Colorado. It's my third stint here and hopefully my last. Been here since last August, but I've already had the opportunity to join a mastermind group. And I think the more that you can have that type of exchange and dialogue, John, the reality is, and pick up my phone and then show you 3 texts that I've had this morning in correspondence with people in those groups. And it's just invaluable. Big proponent.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. We're planning to roll out a few more soon, so I appreciate hearing that we're on the right track.
Good.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom for us?
You know, it's life is good and the business opportunities are abundant. So live fully and take advantage of good opportunities. It's certainly there.
I really appreciate that. I think you're right, and hopefully we can help some people to do that.
Excellent. Thank you for your time today, John.
You too, John. It's been really fun, and look forward to talking to you again soon.